Episode 24, The Cozy Corner of Cinema. Man, I tell you, I've been so addicted to these bubbly, sparkling water cans lately. I'm trying to cut back a bit on some of the caffeine that I take in with a lot of the cola that I've been drinking. And I love cola, man. Definitely love it. But, I was drinking a lot of it. And through some circumstances, I came across this. And, man, I just love these seltzer waters, man. They're absolutely, delicious as hell, man. Keeps you hydrated, got a little bit of taste to it. Man, I can't get enough of these things. All right, man. Here we are back again. I hope you guys all enjoyed last week's episode. I think what I'm going to start doing from here on out is do a monthly kind of Blu-ray talk of the new releases coming out because I really enjoyed doing that episode. But man, I tell you, just seeing that clock wind down and seeing the titles that I wanted to bring up or talk about, there were some I had to skim over just for the sake of time. And it's just unfortunate, man. I don't want to have to skim through some possible titles that are worth mentioning. So I think that'll be a new monthly thing to do. But with that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed that episode for sure. And I'll try to get in some of the international titles as well, because that list I was looking at on Blu-ray.com was only domestic titles, and there's some real cool international titles coming soon. I had mentioned the Watership Down 4K coming from the BFI, and Nil by Mouth coming from the BFI as well. So I'll make a point next month to bring up some of those that may not be on your radar if you're just looking at Blu-rays.com. So, all right, man. I won't get too into it, but the last week I went to the cinema and to go see Jaws, man. And it was in 3D. Unfortunately, I really am not a 3D guy, and I hadn't seen a 3D movie theatrically. And gosh, I could not tell you the last. I mean, what was the last 3D movie I saw? I think it may have been like. Jeez Louise, I mean, it may have been Avatar in 2009, man. It's been a long freaking time. Or you know what? No, maybe it was, may have been Final Destination 5. I don't remember what year that came out. I think maybe 2012 or something. Let me take a look at that. Which it isn't new. Oh, 2011. So that may have been the last time I saw it. And that kind of 3D I think is a lot of fun. But, and I guess there's a new Final Destination coming from HBO, I believe. I can't wait for that, man. I love those films. But, yeah, man, I saw it in 3D, and oh my gosh, man, what a... I remember why I hate 3D, man. I watched the film, and, to the credit, it actually... I feel a little... I got mixed feelings on older films being post-converted to 3D that were not intended to do so. Like Dawn of the Dead is playing at Regal Cinemas on Halloween weekend, or the 3 days to Halloween in 3D, and that just sounds like a nightmare. But it did when I was watching the film, man. Gosh, I mean, it looks like they definitely went through the film and specifically made certain objects and certain things in the foreground and background show their distance with the 3D. But to me, it was a very distracting experience. And it made me aware. I had trouble getting immersed into the great film, and Jaws is a great film. I don't think I need to really go too in depth on it. It set a landmark for blockbusters, for summer films, for horror films. I mean, geez, to be fair, I think I'm more interested in the Jaws ripoffs that came. A lot of the blatant ripoffs, a lot of the the aquatic water animals, stuff like orca and piranha and stuff. As well as the big blatant ripoffs like Cruel Jaws, The Last Shark, Deep Blood. Anyways, my point is that it's a terrific film, but I'm sitting there in the cinema and I'm like, man, I cannot focus on this film. This freaking, especially the sequences later on when you have Richard Dreyfuss's character going underwater, which is a really solid sequence, but I'm just like, I can't see anything. And so what happened was, so the movie's over, and I leave directly to go up to the parking lot, and I just get a ray of sunshine, and it looks like it felt like someone gave me 2 shots of whiskey and then slapped me across the face. I was just like, oh, geez Louise, man, what is happening? So I go across town, I say across town, it's really about 5 minutes down the road. But I go to a different cinema because I have to go catch another film. And my intention was to go back to the multiplex because I saw Jaws at a multiplex, man. It was in a mall. So it was a big, cinema and stuff. And I intend to go back there to go see a couple other films because this was on the cinema day. And ironically enough, I was going that day anyways, but the $3 tickets sort of sweetened the deal. But I'm watching the second film. Watching the film Free Chol Soo Lee, I think his name was, which is a very good documentary, I gotta say. I think it's gonna be a Mubi distributed it, so if you have Mubi, it'll be on there later this year, I believe. It may even be on there now, I have no idea. But I'm sorry, Free Chol Soo Lee, which really good documentary. But halfway through the film, I truly felt so nauseated, and I felt so like I was gonna fall out of my seat. Except it was like that the 3D just completely messed with my head that day, and I almost had to step out of the cinema for a bit. But I was just like, man, maybe I had only eaten a little bit that day, so I'm like, man, maybe I'm just hungry. Let me get some food after. And dude, I tell you, I go across the street to eat, and oh my gosh, man, the true dizziness and the true nightmare. Just I'm eating the food, I'm drinking the water, man. I'm just like downing water, trying to hydrate myself. I'm just eating. I'm like shoveling down this food, man. I feel so awful, and I'm noticing all of my surroundings, the TV playing football, the chattering around me, oh my gosh, man, every chair that was squeaking out, it was like a horror film, man, and I had to just go out to my car. I had to sit in my car for about a half hour because I'm just like, man, I don't know if I can even drive right now, and thankfully it went down, and I was able to drive home successfully without any issue. But later that night, I went to bed at like pretty dang early, and I'm just like, man, this is why I do not like 3D at all, man. Even in IMAX. Oh, you know what? My last 3D film, I just remembered it. It was Ghost in the Shell in IMAX 3D when that came out. What was that, 2014? Which is weird. It never bothered me then, man. When I saw that in IMAX, I was like, oh, that's cool, But I think that was in 3D to my knowledge. Yeah, pretty sure it was. But man, I tell you, so I don't know what it was that day, man. But geez Louise, never again. But I mean, I'd love to see Dawn of the Dead theatrically, but there is no chance I'll be going to that in 3D. Not a chance in hell, man. Freaking gosh, man. But Jaws is still great, man. It still holds up. I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah, terrific film, man. I think my only real issue is probably some pacing issues, but other than that, man, I don't think I need to even talk about it, man. So that was my nightmarish experience seeing Jaws in 3D, man. It was like, oh my gosh. But speaking of craziest, I don't even know if I'm gonna get to all these today because I have some stuff I want to talk about, but I'm gonna try to get to the ones I want to talk about the most. But geez Louise, man. Two films I want to mention. Two adult films. One hardcore, one is kind of softcore, I suppose. Which, you know what, I'll talk about. I'm trying to think. I guess I'll talk about this one first because I happen to have the thing up right here. So from 1970, what year was it? I just had it. Okay, not 70, 82. I'm a dummy. The Taming of Rebecca, directed by Phil Prince. Phil Prince was a pretty notorious kind of roughy filmmaker. These roughy kind of films were hardcore adult films that were a bit more aggressive, usually had some violence and aggressive, very ugly sort of sequences in the film. And The Taming of Rebecca, man, this is a wild film, man. This is... I don't, but I really, really like this film. And I don't know what that says about me. Maybe something not good, but no, I'm only kidding around. But no, I thought this was a terrific film, man. This was one that I always heard brought up when in terms of a lot of the big roughies, films like Fourth Sanctuary and others like that. Actually, one I just watched recently, what was it? Winter Heat, I think? Or Winter something with Jamie Gillis in the film. I like that quite a bit. That was on a Peakorama DVD from Vinegar Syndrome. And you probably heard that. That was my thing in the background trying to find the name of it. It was Winter Heat from '76, man. Cool film. But this film I thought was totally insane, man. You have Sharon Mitchell in the film who plays Rebecca, and she goes off to this school for girls, even though there were a bunch of guys there. I don't really know how that works. But after she's aggressively violated by her dad, played by David Christopher. She goes to school for refuge, and she goes there, and it's just not any better, man. They're abusing her there, they're assaulting her. It's just these long sequences, man. But really, it's just, man, what a cool film this was. This is totally, it is not afraid to really just have some real ugly sequences, real ugly dialogue too. In part because the sequence with Rebecca's dad and her, man, David Christopher, it was like, man, part of me was kind of laughing at some of his dialogue because it felt very improvised. It felt like just every mean thing he could possibly think of, and it's totally mean-spirited in a way that it stops become, you don't really take it seriously after a certain point. It starts to become humorous because he is totally just playing completely wild. And I was kind of laughing because I don't know how old Rebecca's supposed to be in this film. What was that film I saw it a while ago? It was Little Sisters, where they're all supposed to be like kids, but which is a little strange in and of itself. But they're all like 30. But she walks into this room, man, wearing this really like this lingerie outfit. I'm like, that's not. I don't know I don't know what the hell you're wearing that for. And the dad is like, yeah, I like seeing you like that. I don't know what's going on there. But it's a wild sequence, man. It goes on, and from there you get these just really gnarly sequences, including a real uncomfortable sequence with a pin. And I'll leave it at that, man. I think that might be one of the most notable sequences in the film. But it's, I watched that sequence. I keep saying sequence. I apologize. And I'm just like, geez, Louise, man, it's actually kind of making me cringe a little bit. But it's a cool film, man. It's a film that actually goes by at a pretty good pace. There's not a lot of sets in this film. It's mostly just like one or two rooms, but I really like how the end of the film has this real cool underground sort of look to it. I mean, it's really just a couple of flat shots. It's not like a whole set, but I really like the look of it. This was one that I think these roughy kind of films are a bit more interesting, mostly because if they have something closer to a horror film element, where you have this idea of just these really mean-spirited characters doing mean things to each other. In a way that I guess, you could watch it, maybe some people getting the wrong idea from a lot of this, but I think mostly because this is just this kind of film. I don't think, I mean, you can look deeper into it if you really want to, but I think you'd be kind of missing some of the, I mean, I look at some of these films and I really just kind of see it as like a marketing sort of purpose to appeal to a different kind of audience. There's an episode of the Rialto Report, a show that I'd mentioned before online, that kind of goes over some of the Avon films, and I think has an interview with Phil Prince, who's pretty notorious, along with lead actor, I don't know if he's interviewed or not, but the lead actor George Payne in this, who plays the dean. I think he was in a lot of Phil Prince's films, but really like this one, man. I'd love to see this get a release, because I had to watch this online in a pretty crappy, it looked like a VHS transfer from a VHS transfer. It was very low quality, but I mean, you can only do so much with these. You could definitely tell it's some of the audio issues, though, where there were times where the audio didn't sound too bad, and other times you could hear an echo in the room where it just sounded like there were it just sounded like there was some dialogue that missed me, that I didn't quite understand because of but it also could have been the transfer as well. I mean, I'm watching this online that was ripped from, it looked like a couple different VHSs, but if you think these are going to be your kind of films, man, I mean, don't look at these films with any kind of, don't hold them, for one, by today's standards, because you're gonna be upset, and two, don't think too hard about maybe the background of this. I mean, these are just adult films. I don't really see any sort of anything too serious about some of these. They're very just. I mean, that's a whole conversation right there. I would say just don't take these too seriously. I mean, they ride that line between being hokey and being dark, but in a way that I don't mean to be insulting. I just mean that because everyone is playing it so big that I didn't take this too seriously. There's also a very uncomfortable sequence with somebody laying back, a girl laying back, and something. Well, I guess you'll have to see the film for yourself to see what I'm talking about. But, man, you can find this online pretty easily. I don't know if there's a DVD of this or anything like that. I'd love to get a Blu-ray of this at some point, because Sharon Mitchell's still out there. I mean, she's still doing interviews and stuff, and I'd love to get a new interview with her on this. I watched a video of her at Cinema Wasteland from 2012, and she had some very interesting points in that. And I guess she was in New York Ninja, the Vinegar Syndrome film that they saved. It just says Woman on Train, so I guess if I was looking for her, it'd be one thing, but I don't know if they just happened to catch her in when they were filming the film, back in whenever it came out, 84, I guess. But either way, Taming Rebecca, real cool film, man. Really dug this one. Another film I guess we'll go into that I have time for is just a real crazy film from a guy I mentioned before, just mentioned last week, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. Russ Meyer, man. So last time or 2 times ago, I talked about Super Vixens, which was just a pretty good film, but then you had these wild sequences of just craziness of characters, man. His next film, oh my gosh, man, it might have been, I think it might have been even crazier than Super Vixens, and Deck's seeing something now. I think I like Super Vixens. Actually, I don't know if I like freaking chair, man. I don't know if I like Super Vixens more or not now I think about it. I put it low. I put this film lower than that, but I don't know, man. I'm thinking about this film a lot. This is a crazy film, man. It's from 1976. It's called Up with an exclamation point. And gosh, man, I didn't even, I did not know what to make of this film right after I watched it. Because you watch it at first, and you have this part early on. This guy who, I don't know if it's supposed to be Hitler or a guy who looked like Hitler or not, but he's in this like whipping session, this like S&M session, and it goes on for a while, and he's speaking German, and there's no subtitles, and I was thinking, I mean, there's an opening kind of prologue. We have a chick kind of talking about some stuff, and then he was speaking German, so I was just like, is this supposed to be subtitled, or what's going on here, man? I don't want to miss any dialogue, but it goes on for at least 10 minutes or so, or maybe not that long, but it goes on for a long time, and then you get a lot of softcore sequences, like a bunch of sequences in the water. And but then there's some questionable stuff throughout. You have this like kind of crazy looking guy who's really aggressive towards women. So I'm watching it, getting a little disinterested. I'm just thinking like, you're following up Super Vixens with this, and I don't think this is very good follow up. But then you get to the third act of the film, and actually the film goes completely off the rails in a way where there's like a light switch practically, where there's that guy from earlier who's acting really wild. He starts to assault a woman, and then there's a whole violent fight in it with this other guy that comes in, and it becomes totally insane. They're swinging axes at each other. There's a chase sequence in the woods with a chainsaw, and you're just going like, man, what am I watching, man? Did I enter a different film? And the entire last act it's just like, it feels like a fever dream, man. I'm watching it, and I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on, but geez Louise, man, am I entertained. Seems to be a pattern. I think I'm talking about the Hodra a little while ago, where I'm going, man, I don't know what is going on, but geez Louise, man, you're keeping my interest, and it just goes on and on for about 20-30 minutes. Then there's I don't want to give away the entire thing unless you want to watch the film, in case you want to watch the film, but then you have these naked women running around, and the way that sequence ends, they're chasing each other, but one's chasing the other to kill her, but then the way that ends, it makes you scratch your head. And there's some monologues about Nazis or something, where you're like, what are these people talking about, man? What was going on with this? And I think that's what's so interesting about Russ Meyer's later career, is that his earlier work I don't find all too terribly interesting, other than, just being right place, right time, with a lot of the nudie films that were coming out. His first film is pretty good, I think it's The Immoral Mr. T's. I mean, that's the name of it, but there's the other name that I know it by that I can't remember it. But then a lot of the films he did after, Heavenly Bodies and Eve and the Handyman, I'm just like, these are not very interesting. And I think there was that turning point, probably around the time of, even before Faster Pussycat, there was, not even necessarily Mudhoney, because I don't think that's as wild as some of his other stuff, but I would say, I'm looking here, maybe Finders, Keepers, oh no wait, Faster Pussycat was after that, so maybe it was Faster Pussycat when things started to change. I mean, I guess you could say Motorcycle as well. That was a couple years earlier, but I don't think that's as memorable. So I guess, yeah, I guess you could look at Faster Pussycat as kind of the turning point, because then after that, you got really interesting stuff. Because even Finders Keepers, which I'm not totally in love with, but I think has some real. It's another one of those films, man, that has like just these crazy violent sequences, and the way that Russ Meyer does violence is so interesting because he has these characters which are so aggressive and are so insane. I mean, that sequence in Super Vixens, I mean, the guy is just jumping up and down in a tub, just crushing the woman to death, and it is, I mean, it is going for it, man. You don't see anything. You don't see him just like foot like stomping on it, but you can see the outline. You can see like him jumping in the tub, and it's just like you really gotta respect the craft of these actors, man, who are just like, I don't know if it's him or Russ Myers saying just go for it, man, go for 10, you know. And certain films I can hurt it, but films like this where it kind of catches you off guard with how far it goes in terms of the characters acting, it's really cool. And I think that's why I've, you know, when I was going through the first half of his filmography, and keep in mind I have one more film to go to, and then I'll have seen all of his feature films, beneath the valley of the super, or beyond the valley of the, whatever it's called, the Super Vixen or the Ultra Vixens. Can't remember the title. Mixing up about 3 different films there. I really like what he is doing in the second half. Honestly, his least interesting second half career film is probably The 7 Minutes, which is his follow up to Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And I think this was, I mean, it's not a bad film, but I think that he definitely kind of pulled it back a little bit for in terms of just memorability, because or in terms of, you know, it's a studio film as well. So I mean, I know Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is as well, but I don't know if maybe he was trying to make a more commercial film or what. I really want to read the book, Big Bosoms and Glass Jaws, I think it's what it's called, or Square Jaws. That was written in like 2000. It was written after he died, I believe. But after I finish his next film, that's going to be the next thing I'm going to read, because I'm really interested in getting the insights on some of the productions on his films, because just such an interesting guy and the career trajectory he got. I mean, he only did one more film in 70. I don't know what year it came out. I think it may have been 79. And then from there, he was just done. I think he did some other stuff after, a couple like documentaries or something, or shorts, but I haven't really dived into any of that, because a lot of the stuff I don't really know how available it is. But it just kind of made him one of a kind, man. Aside from the women that he casted that made it, that with their physicality that made it so unique to him, where you see some of these women and you know, you know he cast them because of their physicality. That's obviously an attribute there, but I think some of the way the characters act and some of these sequences, some of the violence is very him, more so in this part of his career than in something like Faster Pussycat or where I mean, I guess they have that as well. They have like some like the big muscular guys, but they're not acting as crazy as they are in, like, you know, Super Vixens and Up. So that's why I'm really interested to see his final film. But yeah, I really dig this part of his career, and he's kind of won me over for a while. I was just kind of like, man, I don't really know about some of his films, man. I respect the guy. I never didn't respect the guy. He's done a lot for exploitation films, done a lot for kind of women's portrayal, kind of taking in films. I know you can say a lot about, you know, how Russ Meyer, you know, you getting these women for their physicality, but I think in a way the majority of his films are female led. So yeah, their physicality is something, but it's also like a lot of these films where you kind of take control back. I mean, Faster Pussycat especially is really about this girl gang who are really kind of taking control of the situation, and you know, you can really look into a lot of that stuff there in terms of you know, political background of the times and stuff. Or you can just look at it the way I do, more so about just kind of the entertainment value. I mean, I'm not denying the societal kind of representation in the film in terms of what I think is empowerment to a lot of the actors of the time, but you know, in a way of just like, hey man, you got these beautiful girls and you got these wild moments, and they're there to entertain, man. And I think that's what makes kind of a lot of these films really really special in a way. But yeah, like I said, with Super Vixens and the rest of his filmography, aside from Beyond the Valley of the Dolls and maybe The 7 Minutes, I don't really know the availability on that, but I assume it's probably readily available because it's a Fox title. But yeah, these films you gotta watch some of these online. You gotta watch, I think, almost all of these online. They're not readily available. You gotta go online and look them up, and that's what I've had to do. And some of them have been on YouTube, but this one is a little more softcore, so you're not gonna find it on YouTube. But what did I just watch? Oh, that's right. I watched I think it was Barbed Wire Dolls from Jess Franco, and actually that was a film where you're watching, it has these really bizarre close-ups of like explicit female nudity, and you're just like it's them zooming in, and you're watching, you're like, what? Who is this film made for, man? Yeah, Barbed Wire Dolls. I guess I probably could have talked about that as well, but that's not a great film. But gosh, man, that is a sleazy ass film, man. If you get a chance to see Barbed Wire Dolls, man, do yourself a favor and oh, jeez, that is a crazy film with a crazy ending. That ending came, and I'm just like, man, what? What? That's the way you're gonna end the film? Jeez Louise, man. But gosh, yeah, just Frank, like, total conversation right there. But really, really dug this film, man. Actually, the more I talk about it, I think the more I like it. I might like it more than Super Vixens. I don't know. I mean, it's up there. And I'm not going to do any sort of ranking on his films when I'm done. I've kind of been ranking them as I've gone along on Letterboxd. So if you're kind of curious about how I feel about certain films, you can go on my Letterboxd under Dan the Cameraman and see see how I rank them there. But yeah, real cool film. So yeah, there's those, man. All right, I got about 5 minutes left. I guess I'll wrap it up with some talk here. You know what? I have time for one more that I've seen twice now, and I won't get too in depth into because I don't really have as much to say about it. But a little while ago, I talked about Vortex, the new Gaspar Noe film, and I just recently picked up the Yellow Veil Blu-ray of Lux Aeterna, which is also available in the UK from Arrow. And I think if you're not a Vinegar Syndrome subscriber, I'd probably recommend getting the Arrow UK release for the sole reason that it's going to be cheaper, because I was able to get this discounted, but I do think it's a little pricey for what's essentially a short film. And I mean, the packaging is great and all that, but ultimately you kind of have to weigh your options of what you can spend on entertainment. And I think if I wasn't the Vinegar Syndrome subscriber and got discounts, I would not have picked this up from them. But this was a film that got, I think, a lot of talk. It was filmed a couple years ago, I believe, but it just came out either this year or last year. It played at festivals and then finally got a release here this year. And this is a really cool film, man. I've read mostly positive things, man, some mixed things, people saying that it's not that great, but I think this is what one of the things that Noe does best. He's really good at making anxious situations where we're on the set of this film, and it's sort of like it starts off with, actually, I think, one of my favorite sequences in a Gaspar Noe film, and I don't know how improvised, or I don't know. I imagine it's probably more scripted. I mean, it feels a little more improvised because it feels a little more honest in terms of just the way the actors interact. But in the film, let me actually pull it up here so I can get everything right. So you have the main two actors of Charlotte Gainsbourg and Beatrice Daly, and there's just a really good conversation between them back and forth. I really like that. And then what it goes into is this escalation of everyone being kind of disorganized, and they're making this film, but there's a lot of tension. People are yelling at each other. Carl Glusman from Gaspar Noé's Love shows up in a really great role. He plays like a douchey kind of LA filmmaker who's trying to get Charlotte Gainsbourg in his film, but she's like, I'm busy, leave me alone. I really liked her in the film. And Abby Lee, who's been in a bunch of stuff, she was in like Mad Max Fury Road and The Neon Demon. Two films I like a lot. She's in the film, and just you get the feeling that she's like, no one said I had to be nude. I want to get paid more for this, and it feels like it just feels it builds up and up and up, and then the whole part that everyone will kind of remember more so, I think, which may or may not be a positive or a negative in terms of overshadowing the rest of the film, is the last like 10 minutes. It feels like 10-15 minutes. It escalates in a just an insane strobing, just colors flashing, and this is a film that 1000% has to be watched in darkness. Put your phone down, put your goddamn Game Boy down. Don't watch this on an afternoon. You gotta shut the shades, cover all the lights, because I have never had a feeling where I watched this in my room, man, in the film room, and I truly felt like, I texted my buddy after, who had seen this before me, and I told him my immediate reaction was, I feel like I just got sucked into the film. You just watch the screen, and it is completely just hardcore, just flashing, man. It is I heard people talk about it, and I'm like, it's probably not that bad. They're probably overstating because they saw it in the theater, which I imagine would be great in the theater. But yeah, man, it's just I've seen this twice now, because I had to watch it again because it was just such a ride, man. I really, really, really dug this film, and it feels in a lot of ways like a setup for Vortex, because this is also split screen as well at times. I don't remember if the whole thing was split screen or not. I think most of it was. I don't exactly remember, but it feels kind of like testing it out, and it works fantastically in Vortex, which I mentioned before. But this feels like a setup for that. But real cool film, man. Yeah, check this one out. I really, really like this film, man. It's a real good time. Great performances from everyone. Beatrice Daly, Abby Lee, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Felix Maratat, who I hadn't mentioned a whole lot, Carl Guzman. Really cool film, man. Gaspar Noe is just one of the most interesting filmmakers, just working. Really, really great stuff. But that's it, man. What is this, 24? All right, man, 24. I'm going to finish off this can of seltzer water. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, all that good stuff. Work on your art, man. Get that done. You're not getting any younger. I know I'm not. So, all right, man. Come back next time, man. Cheers.